What's up, boys? Tonight was a bit of a roller coaster fight-wise, wasn't it? I mean, really, the UFC was really playing with my emotions for this fight card. I found myself frustrated on certain fights. I found myself very bored in the other fights. And I found myself very on the edge of my seat in some of the other fights. It just was a complete roller coaster. For most of you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. For most of you guys that don't watch boxing, Canelo Alvarez lost tonight. Funny enough, I watched this while watching the Rose Namajunas fight. We watched this fight at a movie theater, over here by my house, over where I live here in Texas. And it was a movie tavern. I don't know if you guys have movie tavern where y'all live, but we got movie tavern over here in Texas. I'm pretty sure that that's like a global company. I'm not sure. Anyways, but we're watching it at the movies, and in the theater next to me, they were showing the Canelo Bivol fight, and then in the theater we were obviously watching the UFC fights, right? And so I was there with a friend, and I was telling her, I was like, hey man, I think that whenever the Rose Namajunas fight comes on, I'm gonna sacrifice it, and I'm gonna go watch the Canelo fight, and then I'll try to rewatch the Rose Namajunas fight like some other way, because typically with boxing, they're very good at stream sniping. And it's hard to rewatch a boxing match after it airs because, I mean, they're all over it. They're all over it once somebody else tries to repost it on the internet, Anyways, so we ended up not doing it because I really wanted to watch the Rose fight. I chose MMA over boxing. But what I did is that I looked up streams, and funny enough, on TikTok, they were illegally streaming it on TikTok. Somebody was live streaming it. Matter of fact, I've seen a few people live streaming the fights on TikTok. And I had the idea because that's happened before. I've seen boxing matches getting streamed on TikTok, and I'm like, why? But anyways, so the Rose Namajunas fight was extremely boring, and so we ended up watching the Canelo fight during it, blah, blah, blah. We'll talk more about the Rose Namajunas fight later. But Canelo lost, man, and that was a disappointing performance for him. The guy just didn't open up with his hands. I feel like he was gassing, or it was more so he was just like, I don't know. It's like the power of Bivol was really, like, stunning him. I feel like it stunned him, and he didn't want to open up more. It's kind of like he kind of fought to not get hurt. He didn't want to get hurt too bad. And that was kind of weird. A weird performance by Canelo. He just did not open up, man, and he just got simply outboxed, which is weird to say. Anyway, let's keep it on MMA. So, Tony Ferguson. Let's go ahead and start with the big elephant in the room. Tony Ferguson got knocked out, man, and he got knocked out bad. And I'm going to say this, man, because this pisses me off. Michael Chandler is the most well-rounded fighter in that division. Prove me wrong. He is. The guy has decent hands. He has power in his hands. And yes, his boxing is the most technical. He kind of just swings and swings and swings. But so does Justin Gaethje. And Justin Gaethje paid for it later tonight. But you know what? We'll get to that later. But Michael Chandler, man, has the legit wrestling, the elite wrestling, and he uses it. He actually uses it. He has legit elite takedown defense, power in his hands, and now he's adding the leg kicks to his arsenal. The guy is throwing more leg kicks now. And he is so well-rounded, and it frustrates me when this guy will throw away fights by fighting like an idiot. Now, the Justin Gaethje matchup was just a bad matchup for him. Justin, all around, if you really want to edge it, he was all around the more technical striker. He just gets hit less than Chandler. And, he has better countering ability than Chandler, but Chandler clearly has more power. And so, that's what frustrates me about Chandler, man. When he actually fights by a game plan, the guy is really hard to beat. I mean, that blast double leg is something. But I will say this, man, most well-rounded he is, but the guy is not only hittable, the guy doesn't have a chin, bro. And I'm going to get into that because people are going to forget the fact that Tony Ferguson cracked this man in the opening seconds of the fight. I believe it was like the first, 45 seconds, the first exchange. Michael Chandler lunged in with the big overhand right. Tony Ferguson countered with his own right, and then that left hook popped him on the chin. And drops Chandler early in the fight. And then there was more moments in the fight. It seemed like every time Tony Ferguson landed cleanly, he rocked Michael Chandler, bro. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, man, it's the damage that he took from the Gaethje fight. It could be. He could have ruined his chin with the damage from the Justin Gaethje fight. Because he took a lot of damage in that fight, and he took a lot of unnecessary damage. He was fighting like a caveman, man. And so, you know, he started getting tagged up on the feet, and he honestly started getting outboxed. He started getting outstruck on the feet by Tony Ferguson, which prime Tony Ferguson I wouldn't be more confused about, because I would expect it from prime Tony. But from this version of Tony really came out, man, and it was making me happy, bro. We started seeing glimpses of the old Tony Ferguson, man. But it can only last for so long. Tony Ferguson should not be fighting. He should not be fighting anymore, especially after that. Who wants to see Tony Ferguson continue after that? I was scared. I was literally sitting there like quaking in my boots, because I actually did have boots on. But I was literally like sitting there shaking in my literal boots. I was literally shaking in my boots. And I was like so scared, because I was like, oh my gosh, this guy isn't waking up. Tony Ferguson was out cold for like almost a minute. My friend said that it was 2 minutes, but I don't think it was that long. But it was almost a minute. And you guys, whenever you get knocked unconscious like that, it is important that they wake you up immediately. Because if you remain unconscious after getting put unconscious, you start getting brain damage. That's not good. And he was out for a long time, you guys. Not to mention, Tony Ferguson has a past. You guys really have to think about this. Tony Ferguson has a past that he's been mentally unstable. He's been mentally unstable. He's been dealing with all sorts of problems, mentally wise, you know. It's just he's been dealing with a lot. That whole situation with his wife happened, and you don't know where that's coming from. You don't know if that was inbred in Tony. It's just, you know, it's just something that he's just dealing with. Maybe it was some type of trauma, or it was other type of physical trauma from fighting. You just don't know. But I'm not going to make this just a big negative, like, sappy party, but I'm just saying, like, this man doesn't need to be fighting anymore. Tony Ferguson got put out cold. I'm talking about on his face. Tony has never been knocked out before in his career. The first time he's been knocked out. He's been dropped and he's been rocked, but he got knocked out. And I believe the reason why, okay, obviously that was a perfect kick. That probably would have knocked out anyone. But at the same time, getting knocked out like that and getting knocked out for that long. Come on, bro. That has to be an accumulation of damage. The horrendous amount of damage that this man has taken. I said he should fight Conor next. I don't think I want to see that anymore. Conor should just fight somebody else. Conor, man, dude. And you know what? If Conor comes back and he wants to fight Michael Chandler, I actually don't mind his chances in that fight. I believe that both of those guys gas out at a similar pace. They both fight the same. I mean, that's going to be the most explosive first round in all of combat sports. That is going to be fire meets fire. And you know, I'm going to say this. They both can't take each other's power. I don't think that Conor McGregor at 155 pounds can take a clean shot off of Michael Chandler with the way he holds his head. You got to remember, Conor McGregor has his chin up in the air when he's striking. And if he wants to go box heavy Conor, I don't think Michael Chandler's leg kicks is actually that effective enough to really, like, do him in the same way that Dustin Poirier did. I don't know. I may be sounding like a casual when I say that. But, I mean, like, I don't think that Chandler's leg kicks will be that efficient against Conor like that. Because, first of all, it's opposite stances, I believe. And so Chandler is going to have to really extend to try and get to Conor's leg. And then the other thing is that Conor is a much better striker. A much better striker. Chandler wings and wings and wings, and you do not want to fight Conor like that. Although this is this version of Conor, man, I don't know. Conor's reflexes is probably going to be so bad whenever he gets back in there. I just need to see this guy get one tune-up fight. I wanted it to be Tony, but man, I don't want to see that anymore. I definitely don't want to see that, because it's just, obviously McGregor's going to finish him. Well, that's depending on how Conor looks when he comes back, but I would, if I had to bet my money on it, Conor probably would tune him up or either finish him. And, yeah, man, I just don't need to see that. Tony needs to hang it up, bro. You had a nice career. I understand, man. I understand that the UFC really did you wrong, and you never got your chance at the title, your chance at the undisputed title like how you should have. That's unfortunate. But at the same time, dude, you can't hang in there forever, man. Eventually, you gotta hang it up, and you just gotta accept reality. And that's just, I'm really just caring for this man's health. He got put out bad. This man literally went face first to the canvas and was out for like almost an entire minute. You know? And I'm gonna say this too. when Michael Chandler in the build up to the fight is so humble. He doesn't trash talk. He's very respectful. He's still entertaining, but he's very respectful. And he's very humble. And then when this man wins, he is a total D-bag. I mean, he really rubs it in your face. Even if he's not going up to Tony and openly disrespecting him, the man is doing 3-4 front flips in a row. Freaking yelling, screaming, doing all sorts of unnecessary stuff. Meanwhile, Tony Ferguson is literally still unconscious on the ground. There's nothing wrong with celebrating, man, but I'm like, have some, like, dude, like, relax. Like, dude, this man literally, like, what if this man didn't wake up? Once again, I don't want to make it grim. I'm really not. I don't want to make it negative, but I'm just saying, like, you're sitting here dancing and you're doing all this stuff, man, and that's just, it wasn't a good look. That dude really, like, it makes you think that the humbleness, although I really do think Michael Chandler's a good guy, it makes you think that he really tries to look too perfect on camera. And Justin Gaethje was kind of right about it. And he's a lot more explosive, a lot more imperfect than he portrays. But you know what? Good win for Michael Chandler. If he wants to fight Conor next, bro, go ahead. I'm just saying, if Conor can connect on him cleanly before Chandler connects on Conor, Chandler's going out, man. Chandler has no chin, bro. Every time Tony landed on him, he rocked him. He has no chin, man. No chin. And this just goes to show you, he was also getting outstruck. I think Prime Tony would beat Chandler. But then again, this is this version of Tony, and we get what we get. And you don't throw a fit. Moving on. Okay, boys, so let's go ahead and talk about the main event. So, that fight was fight of the night. I don't want to hear anybody saying that Ferguson versus Chandler was fight of the night. No. This fight was fight of the night. Now, Ferguson versus Chandler was competitive, more competitive than a lot of people thought. And not to mention, it was also, in a way, back and forth. Yeah, it was back and forth because Ferguson won the first round. But whenever you really look at it, dude, Chandler versus Gaethje was unmatched tonight. That was the most exciting fight. It was extremely back and forth. Even though it didn't last very long, extremely back and forth. And really what it went to show me is that both guys couldn't take each other's power. It's just that the accuracy of Charles Oliveira and just the fact that he was simply the better striker really made the difference. The accuracy was the one that put Gaethje on his butt and got him submitted. And I'm going to say this. Justin Gaethje is not that good of a striker, you guys. Oh, man, I can hear it right now. Oh, my gosh. If this was like if this was live or something like that, if this was a live stream, you guys would probably be roasting me in the freaking live chat. But it's the truth. And look, I know I give the MMA guru a lot of freaking flack for crapping on fighters, talking bad about fighters, and just being terrible all in general. And, I know I do that, but I don't want to seem arrogant, I'm not saying Justin Gaethje's a bad fighter. He is a very skilled fighter. He's a great fighter. But he's not a technical striker. The man can't throw a straight punch to save his life. It's like, dude, like, stop. Like, freaking throw a jab. Like, do something. Throw a cross. Stop throwing hooks all the time. I mean, I'm talking about when this guy strikes, he's two-dimensional. Now, I know you're like, F you, Trippy. What the heck does two-dimensional mean? Justin Gaethje has a good leg kick and good power. He throws nothing but hooks. Nothing but hooks. Especially when you make this guy get into close boxing exchanges. He throws nothing but hooks. You get on the inside of this guy, he's finished. And that's exactly what happened. If you can meet him down the middle with a straight punch that's going to beat his over-looping punch. Shout out to the Weasel. Straight punches beat looping punches. They do. And that's what literally happened in this fight. Also, I'm going to say this. Justin Gaethje got what he deserves, didn't he? I mean, come on. He said that he's been talking so down about this man, calling Charles Oliveira a quitter, saying that he's a quitter, saying that he's a coward. Once a coward, always a coward. Khabib never showed you these tendencies. I know Charles Oliveira's a quitter. Dustin Poirier is going to beat him up. He thought Michael Chandler was going to beat up Charles Oliveira, and then he didn't. He was like, oh my gosh, Charles Oliveira wanted to quit in the Michael Chandler fight. Who quit in this fight, bitch? You got knocked out, and you got submitted in the same night. And you're calling this man a quitter? He literally made you tap. And you want to know something? I said it beforehand. I said if Charles Oliveira, I was talking to my friends, and I was like, if Charles Oliveira makes Justin Gaethje tap, oh man, the irony would be freaking bittersweet. It'd be bitter because I got my prediction wrong, and now a lot of you guys are going to clown me in the comments of that video. And it would be sweet because Charles Oliveira is the rightful champion. Now, I know I didn't touch on the whole missing weight thing, and I'm not going to. Dude, this man is the champion. Leave this man alone. He beat Justin Gaethje. The man missed weight by 0.5 pounds. 0.5 pounds. If I sound a little fired up, I really don't know. But I'm just kind of, I guess I'm still kind of excited from when the fight happened. But this man is the undisputed champion, man. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense talking about he missed weight and so the title's vacant or whatever the heck. No, man, that man is the champion. And he is going to go into his third title defense with whoever it is. The winner out of Makhachev and Dariush, although I don't think that they're going to have that fight anymore. And I hope he beats Makhachev, man. I hope he beats Islam. Not because I just don't like Islam. I find Islam's style a little boring. And then on top of that, it's Khabib. Khabib is going to still be relevant. Khabib is going to be looming over division if Islam Makhachev wins, bro. And I just don't want to see no more of this Dagestani BS in the lightweight division, man. I hope Charles Oliveira could either knock out or submit Islam Makhachev. A submission would be very satisfying. Anyways, I was going to say something, man. Something about Gaethje. So, okay, I was going to talk about why I picked Gaethje to win. The reason why I picked Gaethje to win, guys, because I actually didn't expect him to fight like that. I said that Justin Gaethje's not that good of a striker. And I feel like his striking got overrated in that Tony Ferguson fight because of the way he did Tony Ferguson. The way that he was able to counter him and the way that he was able to hit Tony Ferguson. But the truth is that he did that to Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is very hittable. Very hittable. And I'm not trying to take credit away from him. I'm just saying it's just like Charles Oliveira dominated him as well. So it's like, you know, it's that fight didn't really mean much in terms of the outcome of this fight. I just contradicted myself because I thought so. Okay, the reason why I'm not making any sense, but I'm gonna make sense when I say this. So bear with me. The reason why I picked Justin Gaethje to win is because I thought he was going to utilize a lot of that footwork, and then I realized that the guy didn't use his footwork against Michael Chandler, and he didn't use his footwork against tonight. He didn't use his footwork against Charles Oliveira tonight. So what good is your footwork if you don't even freaking use it? I thought that this man was going to come out with his flashy footwork, come out with his good footwork, and look to counter Charles Oliveira coming in with those big looping hands. And I thought that due to the fact that Charles Oliveira can kind of overextend with this jab, and he doesn't move his head off the center line, I thought Gaethje could crack him. But I did say, how is he going to finish Charles? Because he can't just hop down there and go crazy on him. You know, he can't just do him like that. So he'd have to find a way to finish Charles without getting into his guard, which was going to be hard to do. And Charles, every time he got cracked by Justin Gaethje, he fell to his back. Smart. It was smart. Bought you a little bit of time, and then it made you, you know, it made you regain consciousness a bit. I don't know. It kind of let him recover, but at the same time, when Charles Oliveira got up that second time, he wasn't recovered, man. That man was just fighting off will. And he is exactly right. When they fight Charles Oliveira, man, they get spooked whenever they realize how tough this guy is and how skilled he actually is. And when those knees are digging to your freaking rib cage, yeah, it makes guys panic. And it makes them overextend and just try to knock him out. Dustin Poirier did it and gassed himself out. And Justin Gaethje did it. He was literally falling all over himself. And he got cracked. And I feel like when Charles landed that first shot, I mean, it was immediate too. When Charles landed that first shot, it spooked Gaethje. And Gaethje was just immediately trying to get out of there. He was immediately just throwing overhand rights, which is what he does. Justin Gaethje panics in there, man. And when he panics, he resorts to just winging haymakers. Charles cracked him. They then ended up getting in exchanges. And look, I don't want to take anything from Gaethje. He rocked Charles twice. And it looked like it was going to be over because I know the UFC, if you get knocked down 5 times or 4 times in a round, it's over. They're not just going to let you continue to take damage. And I thought that was going to happen. I thought that Gaethje was just going to end up beating him up. But Gaethje didn't fight in a way that I expected him to. He stood in front of Charles Oliveira. He swung big looping haymakers with no setup. and he ended up getting cracked, and he ended up getting put on his back, and he ended up getting submitted. He got what he deserved. He shouldn't be calling people quitters, man. This man was picking on Charles, and he started that. Charles probably, the reason why Charles came out there like the freaking Terminator and was in during the stare down, cracked Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje, in a way, got spooked before the fight even happened, you know? And so, Charles, if I'm Charles, man, I would have rubbed it in his face a little bit. I mean, that would have been like, who's the quitter now? Oh, that would have been satisfying. Just the irony of Charles taking his back and making Justin Gaethje tap in his hometown. Ah, man. How's them apples? Anyways, now we can move forward. Justin Gaethje, man, I don't know, man. To be honest, I don't know how he's going to bounce back from this. I really don't. Maybe a Poirier rematch? Maybe, I don't want to see him versus Chandler again. Maybe, him versus Dariush? I don't know. Him versus Fiziev, although he'd get tuned in that fight. He would get tuned in that fight. He cannot strike with Rafael Fiziev. He just cannot. Him versus Dos Anjos, maybe? I don't know. There's still some options for him if he wants to continue to fight. But that's up to the UFC matchmakers. Maybe make him versus Diaz. Alright, so you know that it was coming. So now we got to talk about this hot garbage. Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza. And I'm going to make this brief. Because the fight, bro, if only the referee could, like, step in round 3 and be like, and just call the fight off and be like, you know what, we're just going to go straight to the judges. You guys are just not doing anything. Before you guys really hop to the comments and say that it was Rose Namajunas' fault, it was both of their faults. I mean, Carla Esparza could have pushed it to her a little more. But, I mean, you're Rose Namajunas. Rose Namajunas had such a big striking advantage on the feet. I just don't know why she didn't. She was that spooked by the takedown. It almost as if the demons from the last time she fought Carla Esparza from 8 years ago crept back into her mind, and she just really did not want to get put on her back again. Because, man, dude, I mean, throw a jab at least. Do something. Play the long game. If you're really that scared of getting taken to the ground, at least pepper her with your jab. I mean, Carla Esparza was there to get hit by the jab all night long. This was the most frustrating and boring fight to watch. The most frustrating fight was probably the Chaos Williams fight when he fought that other guy. I was more so frustrated with the other guy, but I was frustrated in this fight too because Rose, dude, you have the striking advantage by a milestone. By a mile. It's not even close. Go punch this girl in the face. And she just didn't do it, man. And she ended up losing her belt. Yes, it was odd. Yes, she shouldn't have. Carla Esparza really shouldn't have won, in my opinion. But, I mean, she did more than Rose. And nobody wanted to see that be a draw because then we have a boring trilogy on our hands. Which I still do think the trilogy is coming. But, man, put that somewhere low on the card. I don't care that it's a title fight. Put that, like, on the second fight of the main card. Don't put that in the co-main event, dude, please. That is not how you serve up an appetizer for the main event, man. That's not how you do things. That was terrible. That was probably the worst fight I've ever seen. I think that was worse than Adesanya Romero. Because at least Adesanya threw leg kicks. And at least there was punches landed in that fight. There was hardly any punches landed in that fight. In tonight's fight. And that was really a pitiful performance, man. I was really disappointed with Rose Namajunas. I was really disappointed. Carla could have pushed it more, but I mean, like, Carla said it best. You fight what's in front of you. You fight with what you get dealt. You don't just run in butt rushing first because she's the champion. You know, Carla had that amount of respect for her to not just wave forward and then just try to force things to happen. She was thinking maybe Rose Namajunas was gonna probably open up more, which she should have. Rose could have picked Carla Esparza apart tonight because it was evident that Carla Esparza not only couldn't take her down, couldn't hold her down either. Couldn't hold her down. And she's the much bigger woman. You know, that was weird. That was a very weird performance. I do think in the trilogy match, if that ends up happening, I do think that Rose will be able to beat her soundly. But, you know, it's all depends on if Rose wants to show up to fight and not dance and show off her footwork. We know you got good footwork. Show off your fighting skills, man. You're a skilled fighter. I believe in you. You got to do better than that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to some of these questions, man. That just pissed me off. All right, so all of my day ones are about to know what I'm about to say, but if you're new, listen to this quick important message. If you want your questions featured in the next podcast, please leave your questions under this one. To know if your question will be answered, I will like your comment, and then after that, it will get featured in the next podcast. And I typically answer everything, unless it's political, religious, or just flat out weird or negative. Then it might not get answered, but I typically answer everything, even if it's not MMA related. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into the first question. All right, so our first question comes from Teron Brown, and he goes, how do you see Colby Covington and Khamzat Chimaev going? Also, how do you think TJ Dillashaw and Sterling is going to go? Okay, so Colby Covington versus Khamzat Chimaev, that's going to be a bit dicey. I believe that Khamzat can win that one. If he doesn't finish Colby, I believe that he wins a close decision, maybe a 49-47 on the judges' scorecards, because I believe that Khamzat Chimaev will be able to thoroughly beat Colby Covington up until he gets tired, man, and I just don't know how tired he's going to get. I don't think Colby can finish him, and if Colby can really push a pace on him from round one to beyond, I think that he can get Khamzat to gas out midway through the second round. And because early on, Colby Covington is not taking down Khamzat Chimaev. He's just not, because he wasn't able to take down Usman. And Khamzat Chimaev has bulletproof, some of the best takedown defense I've seen in that welterweight division. He's big, he's long, he's much bigger than Colby. Burns tried to take him down, and he just effortlessly defended the takedowns from Gilbert Burns. And so Colby may have much better wrestling than Burns, but Burns has stronger takedowns than Colby. So, that's an interesting one, but I believe Khamzat Chimaev will be able to get Colby Covington to the ground. I believe that Colby won't be able to take Khamzat down, and I believe that Khamzat can definitely take Covington down. Can he hold him down? That is something we will need to see, because if he can't hold Colby down and Colby gets right back up and separates from him, Khamzat, that's going to be energy that Khamzat used, and Khamzat's going to need every bit of energy if he's going to beat a guy like Colby Covington, man. But Colby isn't taking Khamzat down unless Khamzat gets really tired, really tired. Khamzat is just a more superior grappler. So I believe this fight would play out mostly on the feet. If somebody's going to the ground, it'd be Khamzat taking Colby to the ground. And I believe that if Khamzat can get Colby down, man, and really control him, I think he's going to smash Colby, man. Colby does not have a good guard. I think he's going to smash Colby. Interesting fight, but Colby is so tough to finish. So that is why I would say if Khamzat were to win, I believe that it would be a close decision. I believe Colby will dominate rounds 4 and 5, and Khamzat will dominate rounds 1 and 2, possibly scoring at 10-8 at either round 1 or round 2, with smashing Colby from bottom guard. And then Colby starts to come back. Khamzat starts slipping on the takedowns a little bit. Colby starts defending them. Colby starts putting on that volume, putting on that pace, tries to take Khamzat down to the ground a few times, and start racking up points later on in the fight, but not being enough, and losing the fight. The same way he kind of lost the Usman fight the second time. Okay, so good question. Oh, wait, and then you asked, how do I see TJ Dillashaw versus Aljamain Sterling? I believe that TJ Dillashaw, if he can stop the grappling of Sterling, I think that he'll be able to beat Sterling striking. So I do see TJ winning that, actually. A lot of people were sleeping on TJ, man. They're saying that Aljamain Sterling is going to beat TJ. He could. Don't get me wrong. That fight is almost 50-50. I just believe that TJ Dillashaw, grappling abilities, is very underrated. I feel like he has good wrestling. He can even take Aljo to the ground. He has good wrestling, good grappling, and good submission defense. I just don't think that Aljamain Sterling is really going to be able to capitalize too much on his grappling in that fight. And I feel like it'll be a competitive striking match with TJ getting the better of him in the striking. But we have to see. So I would go with TJ Dillashaw by a decision. Probably it'll be either a neck and neck fight. It'll be very competitive. I can really see TJ really schooling him though on the feet. I could see like a 49-46 judges scorecards. Call me crazy. Anyways, moving on. And it looks like we only have 2 questions. So if I lost your question, it's probably because it either I didn't see it, and if I didn't see it, you guys, I genuinely apologize, because I don't have a lot of subscribers, but I'm grateful for every single one of you guys. So I don't want to I would never on purposely get lazy and then just duck you guys' questions. That will never happen. I love it when I get questions on the podcast. If I don't answer your question, I really didn't see it. Unless you ask me something strange. But typically, I really didn't see it, man. So that is why it's important to leave it under this podcast. Because as of right now, I'm literally looking at the screen on my iPad, and I'm on my video, and I'm just reading through the comments. So leave your question under this podcast if you want it answered in the next. That's important. Anyways, so moving on to our last question. And our last question comes from Lucas T. Fitness. Shout out. And he asks, my question for the next podcast is, how do you see a match between Robert Whittaker and Khamzat Chimaev going? Wow, interesting. That's a good question. So, man, it's Robert Whittaker schools him. What am I saying? Robert Whittaker schools him. Because here's why. Because I seen how Gilbert Burns was defending his takedowns, but that is so hard to judge because Robert Whittaker is a good anti-wrestler and he shuts the wrestling down. But in that 185 division, who's the bigger man? Is it Robert Whittaker or is it Khamzat Chimaev? You would have to think Khamzat, right? Because he's longer. We all know he's taller and longer and rangier. But he said that Gilbert Burns felt really strong. And he was very hard to deal with strength-wise. Burns has legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which really played a role into that, into why Khamzat wasn't able to control him. But Khamzat struggled to get Burns to the ground in the first place. He struggled to take him down. I believe that Khamzat is going to struggle to take Robert Whittaker down big time if being too big. If Burns was too big and Burns was too strong, Robert Whittaker is definitely going to be too big and too strong. On top of the fact that the guy just really has really good takedown defense. Not to mention he is a much better striker than both Burns and Chimaev. If Khamzat can't get that to the ground and he gasses out in front of Robert Whittaker and tries to strike with him, because a lot of people like to say, oh, Khamzat, the reason why he lost the Burns fight or almost lost the Burns fight is because he didn't go back to his grappling. It's no. The guy couldn't control Burns on the ground and he couldn't hold him down. And he gassed out using all of that explosive energy that he uses in his takedowns. I'm telling you guys, he doesn't use that much technique in his takedowns. He's not as technical with his wrestling as Khabib or Makhachev is. He has skill. The dude is a Swedish national champion. He has skill. I'm not saying this man doesn't have legit wrestling skill. I'm just saying he's not as good as an MMA grappler as Khabib and Makhachev. He's just not. He uses a lot of strength in his takedowns and a lot of energy, a lot of explosive energy. And that's taxing. And if he goes on to Robert Whittaker and he misses the first takedown in that 185-pound division, I mean, Whittaker is going to give him an absolute striking lesson. So I'd actually go with Robert Whittaker, and I would go with a decision. He may be able to head kick him and get him out of there because Khamzat doesn't move his head. Actually, yeah, I would go with Robert Whittaker by KO, actually. I think it would be competitive. Robert Whittaker will defend the takedowns. Even Whittaker might get rocked because you guys can't forget Khamzat Chimaev has one shot in KO ability of himself. But I think that Whittaker will be all right taking the power from Khamzat Chimaev. But I just feel like Khamzat Chimaev doesn't move his head enough, and it's just begging for that right high kick to just slam that shin off of his freaking jaw, you know. So I'd go with Whittaker by head kick KO. Very, very, what is that? Very detailed. So if you guys enjoyed the breakdown, or you guys enjoyed... Sorry guys, I keep stuttering. I can't speak. It's late. It's 2 a.m. right now where I'm at. Had a long day, went to the gym, did all of that stuff. Your boy is exhausted, so bear with me as I close out this video. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, please let me know. Although I may have been stuttering and I'm tired, so this podcast may not have been my best work. But if you guys enjoyed the podcast anyways, let me know down in the comments. It's been your boy Trippy. Got a lot more content coming out this week. We're going to talk about this whole Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz next, man. All this mess going on. What's going on with that? We got to talk about some of these exciting matchups the UFC has been making. We'll talk about it in the videos coming up this week. It's been your boy Trippy, and I'm out, man.